You ever notice that everybody grumbles and is unhappy about training that might be something that you want to have done or you want to set up? They don't really want to get involved. Well, how about taking another look at it, a different aspect to it? How about involving your team members in a procedure writing exercise? And during that, we can discuss all the details of what's going on, what they're doing, and go over a lot of hows and whys. Let's explore this a little bit. I mean, really, what is a procedure? McDonald's, thousands and thousands and thousands of locations and employees make the same hamburger. Everywhere in the world, nearly, they make the same hamburger. How do they do that? They train on procedures, specific steps. And it's the same thing at your dealership. How do you take a payment? What do you do when someone comes in and needs a repair? What takes place? And so creating procedures is creating a roadmap for every specific task that takes place in your dealership. And if we involve your employees in that conversation, we learn what they believe needs to be done, what they believe that you want done, and then we can talk about all the things that I've seen with my experience. And what do they have? They have experience as well. A lot of your employees, maybe from other dealerships. We bring all of that information together to create this roadmap. A procedure is a how to do something in your dealership, and we're going to discuss the compliance. We're going to discuss how important consistency is, and the procedure creates that consistent, making that same hamburger everywhere in the world. And what do you want done in every scenario becomes part of the creation of the procedures and the writing of the procedures and all of the exercise. All of these things come together, and we've discussed every word, every step, every keystroke. So you're not there and you need something done, and your employees need to know what they need to do. Writing procedures and getting buy-in from the employees on what those procedures are gives them power. They know what to do, and that is power. They know what to do. That gives them confidence when they're talking to a customer. What's the number one sales talent that there is on the planet? Confidence. They can sell you something that you don't need because they're confident in what they're selling. And it's the same thing with every person to person transaction, every person to person encounter that takes place in your dealership. And if you want consistency, there needs to be a roadmap. Procedures is how we get there. So you're going to set all the boundaries, you're going to set the policies, you're going to decide what can be done, and then the procedures create the steps of how to do that. And we put all of that together through this exercise. I mean, you invested a lot of money and you built this space. You built your place. Just like hairdresser stations or a hairdressing salon, the owner built that. They built the stations. Each station has a lot of expense involved in it. It costs to operate them. And so, you have all of these different tasks that need to take place in your dealership. What are these tasks? From answering the phone, what has to happen? How do you take a message? Sales, meet and greet. What do they do once they greet that customer? What do you want done? How do they get that deal into paperwork that gets signed? Underwriting, part of that process. Where does the salesman's roll in? Where does the manager's role pick up? Use of software. Who is entering? Who is adding? Who is able to delete? And then you got your welcoming of the guest. What do you want done when somebody shows up and there's not a salesman standing right there? Inventory control. Who's buying it? Who's reviewing it? Who's going over it? Who's deciding what gets repaired? Who decides where the sublet goes? Who makes all of those decisions? And what are the parameters and policies of those decisions? You buy one and it needs an engine in it. Just go back to the auction. Do they go ahead and fix it? What do we do? And so you set up a shop operation of some type. Who's allowed to say yes or no to something that gets done for the customers? I always allowed my employees, you can spend $100 if it's going to make a customer happy, and do not have to ask me. That's a policy. How do you handle all of those types of things? Collections, account management. What do you want done? How tough do you want them to be? What steps do they need to take to make sure that they're following your wants and wishes to help get the customers to take care of their payments and pay their bills? And what role do other people in the dealership play in the success of your collections? Then your marketing. What marketing do you allow your individual employees to do on their own, or is it all just what you allow? And then payroll. What does the employees have to do in order to get paid, to make the accounting department happy? Lots of steps that are there that are going to have to be taken and can be walked through, and we can do them in individual pieces or we can do it all together. There's a lot of ways that we can train and create procedures at the same time. So the steps that we'll take in creating the procedures is actually a big part of the training process. By sitting down with each of your individual team members and talking through what they do every day, what do they think that you want them to do every day? How do they get things handled? And walking through all of that and having discussions and talking to them about things I've seen other people do at other dealerships, all is part of a training process. And then I take the team members through different possibilities and talk about different things that I've seen done, how to use that software a little bit differently, ask why a few times. And then from that, I take all of that information and sit down with you, the owner, you, the manager, and discuss about what I have learned from the team members in our conversation and talk about what the owner and the manager, how do you see things that should have been done or how it should be done, and have those conversations in order to create some rough drafts so that we can revisit with everyone together. A lot of learning can go on, and in the end result is a byproduct of procedures that are written down. So like I said, we're going to be creating some drafts. And again, I will come and talk to your employees about everything that they do and every scenario that I can think of. And of course, I've been 30 years in the business, built lots of stores, trained lots of people, gone into other dealerships and done training and gone through these steps of creating procedures. So I got a lot of scenarios to suggest to your employees just to make sure that we're digging out every little aspect of what you need done in your dealership, every little step that's taken. And then I will take a lot of notes and write down everything that everyone is telling me, even if there's some contradictory information, but we'll put it all together. What information is everyone telling me from what they think that they're supposed to do, what they think that you want them to do, and then some suggestions that I'll make about why you think it might be better this way or this way, just to get buy-in from them. Your team and I are going to discuss every little step from the creation of a document or the handing of a stip or whatever takes place in there. Where's the title? When it shows up, what happens to that title step by step by step all the way through. So there'll be a lot of how are we doing it today? Why are we doing it that way? And lots of discussion about other ways that it could be done in order to come up with a draft of procedures for your operation, whether we just do it for the sales department or we just do it for the office or we just do it for collections, management and underwriting, or we do the entire operation. We can train everybody through the steps of writing procedures and creating drafts. I said it once before on this slide. There's Superman right there with that laser focus. I wished I had him helping me buy cars because, he can see through them, help me find out if I got something bad. But anyways, we're going to use that focus, that type of focus on every step that we take. We want to drill down. We want to follow every document, every step, every little thing that's done. A dollar is handed to the cashier. What happens with it? How do we account for it? Where does it go? And then what is the compliance involved in every task? We're going to discuss all of those things. Why do you do that? That might not be really the best way, and how is a better way, and make sure that what the steps are that are being taken are correct to protect you as the owner from any liability situation. And then what vision do you have as an owner in the end result of every part of your operation? I know that you've, as an owner, been there. You've done that. You've worked in the dealership. You probably wore every hat in the dealership and got greasy and busted your knuckles and taken payments and discussed customers and maybe even repoed. I don't know all of those things, but you know all the things, and you kind of have a good idea how you want that to be done, and you may have tried to express it, and you might be surprised how many different ways things are handled in your own operation. And so then what exceptions are you going to allow in certain procedures as we go through the daily grind of everything that everyone does? How many exceptions are allowed? What exceptions are allowed? How much power does employees have to be flexible to help your customers? So it is really a lot more than just writing procedures and giving some training. We're actually going to end up with everyone's input, which causes buy-in, helps everybody agree that how things should be done. So it's fishing for fun and profits. It's kind of like what your sales guys are doing. They're fishing. If I was training your salespeople, we would be talking about how they're creating their own business and doing customers. But we caught the fish. What do we do with them? And that's what procedures are going to do. We're going to give them that roadmap of what to do day in and day out with every fish that gets in the net, because you don't keep them all. You clean them differently. There's different things that have to be done when you're that fisherman. And then there's different things that need to be done with every customer that comes in. And so what are those scenarios and what steps are taken? And we're going to get way deep into the weeds of each of the possibilities. What every little step, what are some of the tangents? What are some of the things that come up in the conversation with a customer, either from buying a car, trying to get their approval from the underwriting? What happens when there's a problem with the car later? Who is involved in decision making as it goes forward? And all of those things get way deep down into the weeds. Like I said before, you might be surprised as an owner at what's actually getting done down in the weeds, even at your dealership that you're there every day. There's always surprises. And so we're going to help the employees understand what your thinking is through the procedures and the exceptions and all the deep talking. We will end up with a group of procedures, or a procedure for the sales department, like I said before, whatever group we're dealing with. We will end up with what they think, what you think, boil all that down into a set of procedures so that they understand when they make a decision, use that power we talked about. It's like the owner wants. It's what you kind of want. You want them thinking a little bit like you think as they go through the day, so that at the end the result is what you would want done. So it also provides later, because we've created a written set of procedures, future training and monitoring. You didn't do it the way the procedure is, that is immediately incorrect, and you can retrain, you can discipline, because you have written roadmap how to get things done and how everybody should do everything. And you can then kind of identify, did it not get taught to them, or did they just go outside the box to try to take care of something themselves? So the procedures are there to fall back on when in doubt. They don't really know what they need to do. What is the policy? The policy comes from the procedures. What do you allow? What is the exception? What is the end result that you as the owner really want from your employees in any given scenario with your customers? And that comes from all of the written procedures so that it's followed correctly. So you're the boss. What's your role in this entire process? Of course, you made the decision, hopefully, to bring me in there and let me help everybody and use all of my experience. I mean, I have the merit badges, the gray hairs from all of the different operations and things that I've done in this business. But your role, once we do the interviews, we're going to interview each of your employees. An interview means to sit down and talk to them about what it is they do, why they do that, what they think it is you want them to do, and just kind of boil down everything. And then you, as the owner or and the manager, we're going to sit down and go through those procedures or those information gathered from the interviews, and we're going to go over that with you and the team all together, sit in a room and kind of review what they said. This is what we do. This is the step. This is the step, to kind of get your input into what they're doing every day. There's going to be some surprises everywhere I've ever been. There's always some surprises about what is being done versus what the owner or the manager thinks is being done. And then I'm going to create a final draft of those procedures that I will consider pretty much almost finished after we've had all these conversations, and think about all the discussion that we can have. And bringing to the table some new ways of doing things and thinking about how many steps are being done, and maybe we can cut some steps out, or maybe you have a different vision and it's your operation is kind of morphed into where it's at today, and this is a good opportunity to kind of cut away some of the dead wood and get some of the fat off of it and bring it down to a more streamlined procedure. And you're going to have buy-in from your employees because they're going to be part of the input. And so, but after the final draft is completed, that's where the boss, the owner, whoever wants to be involved, we're going to sit down privately and go through all of it and decide, are these the steps that you want your people to lock into? And make sure that the final steps are in place to your satisfaction. And then we will sit down and go over that with the team. Here's the procedure for what we talked about, how you take a payment, how do you make a collection call, what do you do in a repo, all the things that need to be done. We'll go over those procedures with those employees in the final draft, the way you want it done. And at that point, it becomes more training about, we want to change a couple of these steps, but this is how we're going to do that. Whether I'm doing the training or you're just using the procedures for the future, there still is a lot of information that's been shared. We've gone through this exercise. We've talked about all the scenarios. We've shared all the information that I've learned over the years. And hopefully by the end, your team has learned quite a bit. And we've talked about all these things and gotten their buy-in straight through because they're involved. They gave input. So I'm Gene Daughtry. I've been around for a long time. I've been in buy here, pay here since 1996. I was in the car business for 6 years before that doing regular retail. I've built in 4 different dealerships for 4 different companies from the ground up. They just brought me in, wanted to be in buy here, pay here, and said, this is how you get what you need from us and put it together. And so that's where I created procedures and steps and things that needed to be done for legal approvals and compliance approvals by corporations. Those stores are in 3 different states. They all have full shop operations. So that means technicians and shop managers and vendors and equipment and all of that stuff to set up a shop. We could just create procedures for your shop operation or help you redefine your shop operation. I have been involved with those dealerships and other dealerships and have created about $100 million in portfolios altogether. So I've had some practice at this. Operations consulting, that's what I really do the best or the most. And so that's what I want to help you with is your operations, and writing procedures is a big way to get a final set of documents out of the process of training your people. All comes together into one big exercise. So we're going to do procedures, we're going to write processes, we're going to create some policies, or at least we're going to define and memorialize those steps in your operation while we're teaching your employees better ways and how to do things and how to have a good attitude and why it is important to you for these items to be done in a certain way. And so if you need my help, would like my help, you can reach out to me directly. If I can help you, I'm happy to do that. We can talk about your specific operation, how much you want to do, and put it all together and get things on the calendar. I hope that I can help you sometime in the future.